Welcome to our webinar, 6 Automation Tips to Save Your Practice Thousands with Dr. Brook Choulet. Dr. Choulet is the founder and CEO of Choulet Performance Psychiatry, president of the American Board of Sports and Performance Psychiatry, and is on the advisory board of Forbes Health and Athletes for Hope. With a focus on concierge performance psychiatry, Dr. Choulet guides professionals, athletes, and their families towards unparalleled mental health and performance optimization by offering bespoke mental health care services for both adolescent and adult patients. Today, Dr. Choulet will share insights on how she saved over $50,000 annually and streamlined her group practice, managing 12 clinicians with just one full-time employee by using PracticeQ. She will share how to leverage PracticeQ's automation tools and get an in-depth look at key areas of PracticeQ that require customization. With that being said, at the end of the presentation, like I just mentioned, we will have an open Q&A session to answer all of your content-related questions. And again, please place all of your questions in the questions tab on the bottom right-hand of your screen. With that being said, Brooke, you can take it away.
All right, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to dive into this because when I'm not seeing patients, I am loving grinding away at figuring out how to make our practice more efficient, more automated, and just more effective so that we could spend more time taking care of patients. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about efficiencies, customization, and then review how we automate some of our tasks in our practice here at Choulet Performance Psychiatry. And please, I love questions. I want to make this helpful for you. So throughout, no matter when, just drop questions in the chat. And before we jump into the demo, I'm going to pause. Abby's going to read some of the questions and we'll try and get through everything. So I just want to give a little bit of information about how many administrative staff we have in a practice with 12 clinicians, and people are blown away to find out that it's just one. So we have 5 psychiatrists, 5 psychologists, a therapist, and a mental performance coach, and we have just one full-time administrative assistant because of how effective PracticeQ is in managing our practice once it's set up correctly. So first I want to touch on, and we'll dive into all of this in the demo as well, but the form header section is really important to customize. So if you have multiple providers in your practice, you know that you can kind of switch between them by clicking on the different names at the bottom right. And what you may or may not know is that you can actually customize each provider's form header so that it doesn't just have to be one for the practice, or you can customize it to each person. Now, what benefit does that have? So for example, when our providers might download and fax out their notes, it might be helpful to have their direct email address, their direct fax number, and their direct phone number on that form header. So for us, this is a screenshot of our front desk form header, but in fact, you can actually switch between each provider and each profile, go to settings, click on form header, and use the header helper to put in that provider's specific information. The other thing on this tab is the email sender. So if you go to more and settings and click on email sender, which we'll do in the demo, you can also customize who the emails are coming from, whether you want all of them to say they're coming from Choulet Performance Psychiatry, or we could select like, okay, this one account is coming from Dr. Choulet and switch it per provider. And then the last thing that we'll dive into on the demo is the notifications. And we use this feature all the time when our one admin person is at lunch, for example. We have a sign up at our front desk where our patients can check in using PracticeQ's QR code. And then it's set up so that the provider is getting a text message directly to their individual line that their patient has checked in. So these are just 3 kind of handy customization features within the settings drop down. The next one is under My Forms. So if you go to the top and you click on My Forms, you can have different questionnaires for different things. So here's a screenshot of what mine looks like. I have a questionnaire for adults, which is called the New Client Intake Form, Dr. Choulet. I have a questionnaire for minors, so anyone under the age of 18. And then I have a separate questionnaire for sports psychiatry and athletes. Why is this helpful to have 3 separate different questionnaires? It's because I might have different forms attached to each one. For example, the minor has an additional parental consent or custody consent that parents are basically describing what kind of custody arrangement that they have. This is not needed in the adult questionnaire. So someone that may have an inefficient or more manual practice may have one questionnaire that's being sent to everyone, but then their admin team or the provider might be actually emailing some of these additional forms manually. The whole goal with using PracticeQ for my practice is that it's so automated, that it's so efficient that we only do need one care coordinator for our entire team of 12. Another really handy feature here is that through clicking into each questionnaire and then going into the settings, you can actually tailor the email that your patients are going to get for that specific questionnaire. So when might that be useful? That might be useful if, for example, let's say my sports psychiatry intake form, I'm seeing athletes on site at their practice facility. Well, I probably don't want an email going out to them saying, I'm looking forward to seeing you in my office. Here's my address. So that intake form might be customized to then say, I'll meet you at this location. And that, again, automates things. So it eliminates the need for manual communication. The next thing, so this is just another snapshot of what we're just talking about, is that invitation email. So you can customize under the form settings what is in each invitation email based on the questionnaire it's attached to. So in this one, for example, you could see that I'm giving instructions for in-office visits and virtual, and really able to customize the message for each patient based on the questionnaire that they're receiving. And then in the other messages tab, you can even further customize what you want your reminder email to say. So let's say the patient or client has not filled out their intake form. Okay, now what do you want that reminder email to say? Maybe it includes, hey, like if the forms aren't done by this time, your appointment's going to be canceled. So under that other messages tab as well, which we'll dive into on the demo, you can additionally customize the text messages that are going out to the patient. So there's no shortage of customizations available. It's more about knowing where to go and how to make sure you're effectively utilizing all the features that are in here. And then to take it a step further, you can additionally customize the header for all of your intake forms separate from the header that's under that settings more button. Next, you can also customize your invoices. So this is in a different location. You're going to go to List, Invoices, Invoice Settings, and then you're just going to ensure that all your business information is completed. Because even though you might have this filled out on your account form or your account tab, it has to be filled out under the invoice template settings section as well in order for it to show on receipts and super bills. And then the super bills tab that you can see in this screenshot as well, you have to ensure that your tax ID is inputted, because that'll just create more work for you if your patients are submitting the super bills that you're sending them, but your tax ID is missing. So again, before starting to see patients, or even if you're in the midst of your practice now, you want to go back in and make sure that all these things are have information inputted to eliminate additional manual administrative tasks for you later. So the next one is automations and processes. There's, again, no shortage of different things you could do. I'm just sharing what we do at our practice. So for example, if you're using the automated payment system, which you definitely should if you are not already, what I mean by that is that when a patient sees us for an initial intake, for example, there's a certain price that's associated with the service. So we have it set up that 1 hour after the appointment, the credit card on file is charged. Again, you can change this to 1 hour before, 15 minutes before, whatever works for you. We do 1 hour after the appointment time. Let's say that that credit card on file is declined. Okay, now that's going to take someone reaching out to the patient, sending that invoice, trying to collect new credit card information. Well, to help facilitate that, we've created a process where once a card is declined, so again, you see here that the automation piece is that this is triggered when an appointment auto charge fails. It triggers then a reminder to whoever you assign it to. So in our case, it's our front desk saying, hey, send a credit card authorization form to the patient and notify them that the card on file was declined. Again, this eliminates additional work because you're able to automate a reminder to your administrative team saying, hey, a payment auto charge failed, please collect payment from this patient. Another process for us is new patient onboarding. Again, this can look really different for different practices. I just wanted to provide a screenshot of what we do that works for us, and you're welcome to take a picture or a screenshot of this. But for us, for new patient onboarding, this whole sequence you could see here is triggered once the appointment's created. So the second our front desk or one of the providers creates a new consultation, it triggers this whole automated process. So first, you can see here 3 days before the appointment, our front desk gets a reminder to send a reminder text to complete intake forms per the 48-hour policy, or the appointment will be canceled. Now, set 2 days before that appointment is making sure then that the intake form's completed. Again, you can assign this to the doc, the provider. In our case, we've assigned it to the front desk. Then 1 day before the appointment, we have the non-secure method of communication form that all patients fill out. So our administrative assistant will go in and then add into the patient's profile the means of communication to which the patient's consented to. Then 1 day after the appointment, our front desk is again triggered to send an invitation to the patient portal. And then lastly, we send all patients a new patient packet with more information about our services and billing as kind of a reminder after the fact as well. So again, this is really automated. You can, once you're starting your practice, it's easy to keep track of this for each patient. But the key is you want to set up your practice in a way that it's going to be automated and you're not going to have anything to worry about as you get bigger in scale. So if you can imagine, if you have one new patient every week, you can probably manage these things on your own. But let's say you have 10 new patients a week in a group practice or more, now you're really going to want these reminders being triggered either to yourself or to your administrative team. Lastly, we have a process for the super bill. So the super bill is really easy the way that it's built into PracticeQ. However, you're going to want to make sure it's actually getting done. So for us, when an appointment's completed, it assigns to the practitioner a reminder to create the super bill that day. This is another big time saver. So we integrate our PracticeQ with Zoom, but again, I think PracticeQ also integrates with Google Meet. So once you've integrated your Zoom to PracticeQ, you can then go into the automated emails, which we'll pull up on the demo, to create a Zoom meeting reminder email template. And then this is a screenshot of what gets sent to our patients. So we have it sent out 60 minutes before the appointment, because in my opinion, if it's sent out too far in advance, it's going to get lost in their inbox. So we have it sent 60 minutes before, and then in PracticeQ, you can also select which appointments that it's going to be basically triggered for. And in our case, we've selected all of our telehealth visits. It'll create a Zoom meeting reminder and then automatically get sent to the patient. So I can't tell you how many times I still hear providers saying that they're manually sending telehealth links, and think about in a week how much time that's wasting to go through and be manually doing that. So this is, in my opinion, if you're going to take one thing away from today, it's automating the telehealth email. So you might already have Zoom integrated or the Google Meet integrated, but do you have this automated where it's automatically sending the Zoom or Google Meet links to your patients ahead of the appointment? SMS text messages. So our building and suite is kind of difficult to find. So we have a separate automated SMS text for every single provider in our clinic that you could see here. Again, these are kind of tedious one-time things to set up, but it's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run to get it done now. So every patient 30 minutes before an office appointment, so not a telehealth appointment, an office appointment, gets a text message with parking instructions and how to find our unit. And the reason it's individualized per practitioner is that it has that provider's direct phone number. again, we have one administrative assistant. So if she's at lunch or if she's out for the day, we want all of our new patients to be able to find our suite. And in doing so, we provide them with their provider's direct contact info. So again, these are all just different ways to automate your practice and use PracticeQ's features that you're already paying for to really save time and money. So let's hop into the demo. Before we do that, Abby, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So Thomas wants to know, for new patients, is there a way to automate who has access control to the new patient? It's feasible to do manually when we have less than 5, but anything over becomes tedious steps and may lead to errors.
Yes. So, Thomas, do you mind putting in the chat if you have an administrative assistant or not? Because that'll also help me answer your question. But while you're doing that, yes, there is a way to access who has access to new patients, and we'll do that in the demo. I'm going to jot that down. So we'll start with that, and I'll show you how to control that.
He said they do have an admin assistant.
Yeah. So the way we have it set up is that, and I'll hop into the demo and then come back to this slide. So can you now see that the demo, Abby?
Yes.
Okay. So you can go to, let's see here if I can do it on the first try here. Yes. No, it is not that one. I believe it's subscription. It is, oh, team. That's what it is. So here, Thomas, for this one, we can set up a secretary account, for example. I'll just put in as an assistant. And then here, you'll actually be able, once you have more, the issue with this demo account is that there's just one provider, but you'll be able to click on edit here and select which, basically which provider's patients the assistant has access to. And same thing with practitioners. You'll be able, right here in this demo account, there's just one, but when you have multiple, you'll be able to select through this area, see assistants who can manage this practitioner, and select here. I don't know if that directly answers your question, but this is the way I know of where you can actually control who can see which patients. And that way, for us, for example, our admin and our accountant can see everyone's patients. However, our practitioners can only see their own patients. So feel free to drop another question if that doesn't fully answer it. Okay, Abby, next question.
Is there a way to automate adding an additional client to an appointment?
What do you mean by adding a
So
client?
she is a lactation consultant, and they need profiles for both mom and baby created upon booking. Is there a way
I
to
see.
automate adding an additional client to an appointment?
I don't know about automating an additional client, but what you can do is you can create, let's see, let's go into the clients in this demo. You can add a linked client. So if you go into a profile, you can add a linked client and add the relationship as the parent or the child. So in your case, if you're a lactation consultant, I'm guessing the mom is your primary patient. And then you can also go in and create a client and mark that as a child to connect them. Feel free to add additional questions if that doesn't answer it.
But other than that, Brooke, you're ready to take away the demo.
Okay. So made a little note section here for myself so we don't miss anything. But I'm going to start with customization areas. So we went to more settings. And then in the form header here, I like to use header helper. I've tried to do it myself. It didn't turn out very well. So PracticeQ gives you this header helper where then you can type in your address, for example. You can type in your phone number. And you can see here on the right, it makes it very pretty and nice. You can put your logo, fax, and you can even customize it with your branding colors if you have the hex file numbers. So I highly suggest doing that. It looks really professional. And this is the first place that I would recommend customizing. Once you've customized in this section in the form header, you can actually decide when when you or your practitioners download these forms as a PDF, if you want to have it the same as the form header, use a default one or customize it even further. And if you're technologically challenged, PracticeQ even gives you an option to contact them and they'll create your custom header for free. So I love PracticeQ. Thank you for offering that for those of us who are challenged. But these are the first two areas that you definitely need to customize, because otherwise your forms are going to look very kind of amateur hour if they're not done well. So I'm very big on branding. The whole way that someone experiences your brand and company says a lot. And so really before even starting to see patients or now, I would make sure that your forms, your headers, and your kind of branding colors are all really kind of synced in here into PracticeQ so it looks really seamless. The next step here is looking at the form invitation email. So personally, I don't have this part filled out because every single one of my questionnaires is a different form invitation email, and I've like hyper customized ours. But if you just need one form invitation email template and you don't want to mess with the questionnaire settings in each separate questionnaire, then I would come in here and fill this out. Next are same thing. You could either fill this out here for one general message, or within each questionnaire that goes out under the My Form section, you can customize it further. And then email sender, this is really important. You don't want your email to be sent as some PracticeQ email that patients are not going to know is coming from you. So in this case, you can see on this demo that Tyson's created his sender display name, his email address, and then he has made sure that this is what's going out when he's sending forms. You can either use this for all practitioners if you have a group practice. I don't do that, so it looks like it's coming from each practitioner's individual name, but that's an option as well. Then here we'll jump down to notifications. In my opinion, every single one of these should be checked off. And to me, this is the most important. Back when I was talking about when our patients check in with a QR code, this is where the text message is going to go, notifying your provider or your whoever is in your practice that the patient's arrived. They'll also receive a text message every time one of these things happens. So you want to make sure that all of these are checked off and that there's a phone number in there. Same with all of these, basically, like if a client self-checks in, all of these you want to be notified, and then you want to make sure you're saving that. Here's where you would integrate Zoom. I think I saw a question pop up in there about basically how did I pick Zoom over Google Meet? And for me personally, I feel like I have just used Zoom so much in training and then in different environments. And I feel like everyone uses Zoom. Plus, Zoom has a HIPAA compliant model as well with a BAA, a business associate agreement signed. So for me, it was just easiest to have each practitioner purchase their own Zoom, and then it's integrated in here as well. So that is the customization. Those are the customization areas under settings. The next one I wanted to go to is under My Forms. So you can see here, we've ported over in the demo, my adult versus my child intake questionnaire. So if you click in on it, you can see which consent forms are attached. Again, this is a demo, so mine are different, but you can kind of click which one should be attached to that questionnaire. And what I like is you could preview. Again, what I like about the preview is, okay, here's that beautiful header that we just created in the settings section. So you can actually see what your patients are seeing on the other side. I've seen some pretty scary looking ones where it doesn't even look like the practice I'm filling out forms to. So make sure that your colors are synced up, that your logo is on there, and that the branding is on point with your brand. Going back here, we click the three dots in the questionnaire, click on settings, and now we can really dive into, okay, this is so customized that I can even pick when someone submits the form where I want the patient to be directed to once they submit it. I can customize the invitation email, which I've done here. You can customize the reminder email for when your patient hasn't filled out the form and they're getting a reminder to do it. And then if you scroll down, you can also customize the text messages that will go out both when the form's being sent via text and then also when the reminder is being sent via text. going back up again as if you needed another area where you could customize the header again. You could customize this specific questionnaire separate from the other ones. If you don't select this, it'll just pull whatever was the header that you used in the original more settings section that we started on. And the way you verify that again is by clicking preview here to preview what that form's looking like on the patient end of things. And then lastly, if we go in here, we can get super advanced, and you can even add in things at the bottom of the form. You can hide the footer, you can pick which color it's seen in. So a lot of different customization options. The next thing I wanted to jump into is the note form header. So again, those were the questionnaires that are being sent out to patients ahead of their appointment to fill out their forms. But on the internal side, you can click on notes at the bottom and also customize the header here. So we could click on settings, custom header. When might you want to use a different header for your notes versus what the patients are seeing when they fill out your questionnaire? Let's say that you download these notes often and you're sending it to other docs or other providers that are collaborating with you on taking care of the same patient. You might want to include your fax number on your notes header, right? And you might include that and all the other information, but maybe for the patient-facing form side, you don't want to include the fax number. So those might just be other reasons that you're going to customize the header here in the notes section versus in the questionnaire up here. Moving on to invoice settings. This is being recorded, so I know I'm moving quickly to get through everything and leave time for questions, but this is being recorded, so you could go back through and kind of slow it down and follow along. And one of the last things we're going to look at is lists, invoices, because even though you might have automated everything on the settings side and you might have customized it all there, you have to go into lists, invoices, invoice settings to customize what your receipts and your invoices are going to look like. So again, you're going to put in your business name here, you're going to put in your address, you're going to put in your logo, all those things, and you can even customize what is at the bottom of every single invoice, additional text or disclaimers. And then on the super bill side, if your patients are submitting super bills for a possible out-of-network reimbursement, you're absolutely going to want to put in the tax ID number here as well. So if your clinic uses a single tax ID, you could put this here. But if each practitioner has their own tax ID, you put that in under the More Account Clinical tab. And then I think that's it for this section. You can also customize. We do customize the receipt email versus the super bill email. So for receipt, it's just like, okay, if you're, let's see, if the client pays online, for example, they're just going to get an automated email saying, here's your invoice or receipt attached, versus the super bill email. We actually provide additional instructions here, like this may get you possible out-of-network reimbursement. You can contact this website to help you process the out-of-network claim, and we provide additional context for the super bill email compared to the invoice or the receipt email. So that's it under the invoice settings. And the last one is messaging. So you might think, again, that you've customized everything, but I'd encourage you to go into secure messaging at the top, click on settings, and really make sure that, again, you can use your brand colors here. You could put in your logo, your colors, your clinic name here. You can also look at what your patients can view in their portal. Do you want them to be able to change their appointments? Do you want them to be able to manage their credit cards? All those things. I would just do a double check or an audit of what you have selected at this time. And then in terms of registration, you can also decide, do you want your patients to be able to self-register, or is it by invitation only? So based on your practice flow, you might decide one way or another is better for you. And then in the other tab, You can set up autoresponders. So we have an autoresponder set up that, for example, if someone messages, it says like, we will get back to you within 24 business hours. If this is an emergency, call this number or call our office. And then you can also customize a welcome message that all of your patients get when they sign up for the portal. So in terms of portal customizations, you can also customize the email that's being sent and the text message as well with the invitation. And then lastly, the big one that we were touching on before, if you click on more and then you go to processes, you can also kind of manage the different ones we were talking about. For example, here you could create the task to send the credit card authorization form when a card was declined. So we created the task, but to determine when that's automated or triggered, you click automations, and we have it set to trigger this process when the appointment auto charge fails, and then it's selected for all service types. Versus new patient onboarding, that whole kind of process or chain of events is set up here, but it's only triggered for the initial consultation, not the other follow-ups, again, because that's a new patient onboarding. And then the other one was super bill generation. So the super bill, the reminder to create it is set to 1 hour after the appointment. And then it's triggered again when the appointment's completed, and it just reminds the provider to create and store the super bill so that you're not getting a bunch of people calling the clinic saying, hey, I don't see my super bill online because the provider's forgotten. So again, all these are kind of safeguards to make sure that things are staying on track, because like another person had mentioned, when you start scaling, it's really easy for things to get out of hand or the ball to get dropped in certain areas. And so you want to make sure that you're utilizing PracticeQ as effectively as possible to take advantage of all the different automation features.
Yeah, I think that's everything. If you want to talk about your performance psychiatry a little bit more, Brooke, that would be amazing.
Sure. Yeah. So I specialize in working with athletes, executives, high performers, artists, and their families. And our group is all concierge. So we're all private pay, and all of our patients have our cell phone numbers. They can get in touch with us easily. So that's why for us, we try and have as minimal of an onboarding process as possible, as that's what people are coming to us for, is that more personalized attention. I travel all over and speak on performance psychiatry in addition to private practice consulting. So if anyone has any questions, you can send me a direct message on Instagram and I'm happy to get back to you. I also have packages where I will actually go in and set up someone's entire PracticeQ account for them and then give them step-by-step instructions on how to onboard multiple clinicians and things like that. So I'm happy to help in whatever capacity you need. So send me an Instagram message or look at my website, brookchouletmd.com, and my email address is on there. So I look forward to hearing from some of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. We really appreciate having you here, Brooke. And yeah, I believe that's everything for today. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and we hope to see you again soon.